The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Welcome to this week's episode of Work the Left Side. I'm joined by Matt Myers. Just basically sit down and have a chat about British wrestling. Obviously, the dude's been around since 2008, NGW, Tidal, and just a lot of the awesome people that he's worked with. So I'll keep it short. Enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next week. Cheers. Bye-bye. So, welcome to this week's Work the Left Side. I am joined by the amazing, the spectacular, the sensational Matt Myers. How you doing, man? You right?
Yeah, man, I'm all good. Yeah, happy to come and talk about some wrestling.
Yes. We might sidebar into comic book stuff as well, just to forewarn you.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Get into the good stuff, yeah.
Hence the Spider-Man references there, right at the very start.
Yeah.
How you been keeping, man? You sort of obviously the global bastard seems to be doing one. Things seem to be coming back to normal.
To be honest, I work from wrestling. I've got a full-time job. I work in a healthcare service. I work in sort of addiction support, people with drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental health support. So yeah, I've been working for the past year, to be honest. Sometimes at home, sometimes in the office. So it's nice at the moment because I felt like for a long time last year I was just living to work. Essentially, that was all I was doing. It was go to work, come home. Like no recreational stuff on the weekend, really. So yeah, I think it's nice that wrestling's back. I mean, I've had a couple of matches back now. Things are feeling normal. I'm liking it.
Well, that's it. Like I said, it must just be. If that's what the wrestling is for you, it's a bit of a release. It's something to do, to get you out of your work headspace, and it's sort of obviously it's still work, but it's what you enjoy doing, kind of thing. More, I would presume.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say less pressure, but no, I presume there's obviously pressure on both sides anyway. So,
it is in the sense that like a lot of my friends are full-time wrestlers, and if they're sick on a day when they've got a booking, it's a bit panic mode, because it's like, well, this is where my money's coming from. We're wrestling, you don't work, you don't get paid, you don't eat, sort of thing. Whereas in my job, if I ever get ill and stuff, there's just not a lot of pressure essentially for me in wrestling. Like it's all about just enjoying it. That's the main thing for me.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I do think that kind of comes across as well, to be fair. Sometimes, I mean, I was going to touch on this later, but like the creation of the Chuck Wood character, that just seems like, just a barrel of fun kind of thing for, it's something that you've thought up and ran with because you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's a bit of a story on that. I mean, I like to wear like a lot of is it flannel, I guess? Flannel's flannel's the pattern. So I wear a lot of like flannel. I wear sort of bootcut jeans. I mean, my wife tells me off because even in summer on a hot day, I've got my Timberland boots on. She's like, you need like some proper trainers. I was like, nah, these boots are comfy. But I always dress like that. And the amount of times people make comments like, oh, you have to chop trees. You have to, you look like a lumberjack and stuff like that. And I thought, I need to do something different. And I was working over at Lincoln Fight Factory, and big thing with Lincoln Fight Factory is they're predominantly trainees there. It's almost like constant academy shows with a few more experienced guys thrown in there. But we had the local TV deal at the time, and I was the NGW champion, and I was going over there and I was jobbing to their guys, which is fine. Obviously, it doesn't matter to me. But I think when our TV show was broadcast over there in that area, and then I was coming in, I didn't even realise this. I turned up to a show, and there was a few little kids that got really excited to see me, and I didn't realise why they were so excited. And then when I started chatting to them after the show, they was telling me like, "Oh, we watched the NGW stuff on the weekend." I was like, "Ah, right, I get it." So now I'm thinking, it's a bit thingy that I'm the NGW Undisputed Champion. I'm having these matches with Rampage Brown, Nathan Cruz, Joseph Connors and the likes, and we're putting on main events, and then I'm coming to Lincoln and I'm doing the job to someone who was having like the first ever match. So I thought, how do I protect the Matt Myers stuff that I'm doing over in NGW and on the local TV show for British Wrestling Weekly? And it was like, right, I'm just going to create a brand new character. So my first time doing Chuckwood was against Kip Sabian. No, Kip had no idea what was happening. I gave him the rundown of what was going to go on, but he just wasn't ready for it. So I was doing a double show. It was at the Engine Shed in Lincoln. And I come out, I've got my Chuckwood music. They've done me an entrance video. They knew all about what was going on. There's like an electric, it was supposed to be like a guitar solo, but it's done with a chainsaw. And he's in the ring and he just can't stop laughing. He wasn't expecting it. But yeah, that's essentially how Chuckwood came along. It was just to protect what I was doing for the British Wrestling Weekly TV show. And I was just having fun with it. Like you said, it was obvious. I was having the most fun that I'd had in wrestling in a very long time. So yeah.
That's awesome. It works as well, though. Like you sort of said, you've got to protect what you're doing over here. So if you're going over there, obviously helping out the young, the academy guys, it's the perfect fit. But I mean, they're still learning from you. You're still going over there, showing them what to do.
Yeah. It was bringing in that old wrestling style as well. I think with the to be fair, not so much now. I'm 30 now, but God, years ago, it was all about like backflips, head scissors, like lucha arm drags, bringing in that really athleticism there, like which I still do when I'm playing the baby faces Matt Myers. There's still a lot of athleticism in there. I can still do it, even though I'm 30, bit more of a struggle these days. I saw a picture earlier. I saw a picture of me earlier doing a standing moonsault. I thought, oh God, I could never do all that now. And pass those days. But with Chuckwood, it was very much the 80s style of wrestling, pretty much where it was a bit almost nonsensical. It was just move after move, and there's no real sort of, I guess, story to it sometimes as well. I think a lot of 80s wrestling, you watch like Ric Flair, you watch Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, those guys who were, I was the Four Horsemen, that was fantastic. Ricky Steamboat and the like. There was great storytelling, but for a lot of it in wrestling, it was just bump, move around. There wasn't that same level of psychology and execution in terms of that storytelling that I think that you get in not so much modern day wrestling, but maybe the wrestling of 10 years ago.
Yeah, mid-noughties, sort of, late 2000s kind of thing, when you had your Eddies and your Benoits and Malenko, well, not Malenkos, but Jerichos and whatnots. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that works though, and even though back in the day, like I say, that old style, you'd only get that psychology if it was like a big pay-per-view or something, if it was just like an exhibition match. That sounds exactly like what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a different world now, and I think like there's a balance. Like if you watch Will Ospreay 6-7 years ago, it was I don't think there was much behind what he was doing. It was quite almost nonsensical. It was just flip, move,
it was popping.
But now you watch him, and there's this element of drama to what he does as well. I'll never forget the spot where he did like a Hurricane Rana off the corner. Someone goes to the Frankenstein, he lands on his feet, and like the guy turns around, like can't believe, and Will's got this really good facial there. And that's when you really start to see Will look at the importance of storytelling and stuff like that. But for the most part, there's still a lot of people in wrestling where it is just flips and athleticism and no real, I suppose, logical reasoning behind that either.
Yeah, it's the like I say, the storytelling. But I think obviously Will's picked up a lot. Obviously being in Japan and stuff is, that's what got him there, and then he's evolved, kind of thing. I mean, he's taken it and he's got the ball and ran with it and bettered himself with that side of things. But
2014, Will, he was a gymnast. Like I remember watching him. He came to did a NGW show in Hull. Can't remember who he was on with, but it was impressive, but it wasn't like my sort of cup of tea. And now I can watch a lot of Will stuff and really, really enjoy it as well. That's the difference, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's it. And at least he's done it to better himself as well. Because he could have stuck with what he was doing, and he still would have made a name for himself. He still would have made a mint and still been very popular in Japan.
Yeah.
But
he's always been really respectful to everybody as well. And obviously it's done well for him in Japan, where it's all about respect over there, isn't it? The way those have to pay the dues over there, like the what do you call it? Is it Young Lions or something? Like the
young boys in it, I think.
The way they have to act and the stuff they've got to do just to get the respect, to get them opportunities. I mean, obviously wrestling's always been about respect everywhere you go. But I think more so traditionally, in Japan as well. So yeah, he's obviously done well over there.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, obviously, well, talking about yourself, you mentioned NGW there. So I generally sort of tap up Cage Match before talking to people, looking through stuff, Wikipedia and whatnot. Obviously, NGW, I've seen you in Tidal, I've seen you in TGW, True Grit, I've seen you in various other promotions, but you are synonymous, obviously, with NGW. That's your promotion for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you was there on the first show. Obviously, you and Nathan Cruz.
Yeah. I was with him for about, I think been with him for, when did this? 2007, I think 2008. So it's been about, was it 2008? Yeah, so looking at, 12 years now. To be fair, I've got a lot of love for it. And I kind of burnt myself some bridges because, honestly, there was times when I was booked on other shows. And then the promoter of NGW had messaged me saying, "Look, Matt, I've got a show that we're doing here." And because NGW used to travel a lot. That's what a lot of people don't realize. It was never set in one place. It was a traveling show for a long time. And I think I had a show with, it might have been with Hope actually. And I got a message off Rich said, "Look, I've got the show at Ormskirk, Liverpool. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." But I've got this on that day. And because I didn't rely on wrestling financially, I didn't mind just sacking off shows to. I've never recommended it to anybody and I didn't do it. This didn't happen very often by any means. But I always prioritized NGW because I always loved the show. It was a really professional team. A lot of my closer friends in wrestling was there. Obviously, everyone knows that. If you know me, you'll know that I'm best friends with Nathan Cruz. So he was always on the same run as me. And I just always enjoyed it. I always enjoyed it, and I think it's to my detriment sometimes because when you started trying to, I suppose when you talk to people if you'd burnt bridges, I think I won't hope actually it was a Tidal show actually, and I think that was one of the bridges that I burned by doing an NGW show instead. And then I remember talking to Ian about doing some work with him, and I think he was a bit reluctant to use me, and rightly so. Like, why are you going to use someone who might pull out on you, a couple of weeks before the show, whatever it is. But yeah, I loved those shows. They're definitely my favourite shows, the best ones that I've ever worked with, and especially when they got the Butlins deal as well. I enjoyed doing Butlins for All Star Wrestling back in the day. But with All Star, I think there was always that pressure as well, in a weird way, because you didn't know the team, and the lads that I was on those shows were veterans of 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And in a way, you almost felt like the outsider because I felt like it was obvious that this wasn't my job. And it was their job. And by me being on that team, I was taking a spot from somebody who wanted to do this as a job. And that was the always impression I got. I mean, Dean Allmack was always great with me. A few of the lads was always great with me, to be honest. I don't think, other than maybe one or two people that I had a couple of run-ins with, everyone was always great there.
Yeah.
But it was just more maybe my perception of it being a young lad, like 21 or something, and not having any intention of wrestling being my full-time job.
Probably very similar to me, where you're kind of you're your own worst enemy. You start putting thoughts into your own head that other people are thinking that it turns out they're not thinking it. It was just you, thinking worst case scenario.
Absolutely. But also when NGW was running it, like I say, a really good atmosphere, and I felt like there wasn't that taking jobs away from other people. There wasn't this pressure, I think there was almost like all these hidden rules with All Star that you didn't even know about as well, and you just felt like you was walking on eggshells a little bit. You didn't know what you could say, and even little things. I remember going under time before when a guy got pissed off because I went under time. He's going to have to do extra minutes now. He's going to have to make up for what I missed out, essentially what I'd cut back on. And then there was another time when I went overtime by a few minutes, and then they was pissed off because now they're going to have to cut their match short. And it was like, there was just all this constant pressure, I suppose, to get everything perfect. But it was a great learning experience as well. Like, first time I ever ad-libbed a match all the way through was against Ringo Ryan, Ralphie. And that was at, I think, Victoria Hall, maybe? I can't remember. It's their main one I think it's in Stoke, actually. I can't remember. Apparently it's a big deal to do that one as well. First I'd heard of it, really. But yeah, apparently I remember when I was there, they were sharing a lot of stories about matches and things that had happened there over the years. And it was cool to do. It was cool to be a part of, but obviously it just didn't have that same sentimental meaning to me. But like a lot of the All-Star guys are from that area. I think Dean and Robbie Dynamite there was from Stoke, so obviously it was a bit more important to them. Well, it's like me and the whole City Hall means a lot to me. There's that venue. You know, I used to go watch wrestling there as a kid with my mates. So to go back and perform there in the main event against, you know, them same friends as well, in Nathan Cruz, I suppose that. I reckon it was just the same as kind of what that was to me.
That's it. I suppose everybody's got the home turf, aren't they? You know, the home ground kind of thing. If that's what they think is as theirs, it's going to be an emotional thing. As you say, yours is, you know, the whole. It just adds that extra sense of, like I say, emotion to it, doesn't it? I presume.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, obviously, the holiday camps is something that I've discussed with a few people that I've been on, kind of thing, and generally everybody seems to, you know, say it's the best learning curve for doing what you're doing. You know, it's just, I mean, did you do like a whole 6 weeks stint?
No, to be honest, that's you know, the one thing. Honestly, I think for me, I've never fully committed to being a professional wrestler, and part of that is because if I look at so I was trained by El Ligero, who was probably the busiest wrestler in the country at that time, and Simon was still living with his parents, and he didn't have a car, and when I asked him about that, I said, "Man, you're doing all this wrestling, but you're still living at home with your parents and stuff." He was like, "Yeah." And his logic at the time was, "Well, there's no point in buying my own house or, you know, get my own car and stuff like that." I think because he was saying, "Well, I'm always in other people's car, but I'm never home, so what's the point in paying all that money to rent somewhere?" And I got that, but in my eyes, I was looking at someone who was the most successful and busiest professional wrestler in the country and thinking, "You can't afford to move out." You know, that was my perception of it. And it wasn't just him, it was Johnny Storm as well. I'd heard stories like Johnny Storm was in his 30s and was still living with his mum. And even Johnny Storm's one of the biggest names in British wrestling. So I never attempted to make wrestling my full-time job because I was like, I'm not going to be able to create if these guys, who in my eyes are some of the best to do it, and making enough money to live that independent life, then I'm definitely not going to be able to. So I think from a younger age, I was trying to figure out what do I want to do, and I was flirting from job to job, and then I went and did my degree in media, and then I finished my degree, and then I didn't want to do media anymore because my degree had kind of beaten it out of me, you know, any love that I had for that sort of industry and that line of work. And then I was floating around from retail jobs, and eventually I kind of stumbled into what I'm doing now, and I'm very passionate about drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and helping people get their lives back on track. And I absolutely love my job. So I'm kind of lucky, really, that I have found something, because it was definitely not what I did my degree in. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, this is the reason why I've never done 6 weeks on the summer holidays on the camps. I did a lot of the 6 week shows on the Haven run when I was like 15, 16, I think, 17, around that age. We did a lot of work on the Havens, but I've never done a full 6 week run with the Butlins. But I can't recommend it enough to anybody that does want to, because now in wrestling, I'm talking about Ligero and Johnny Storm not being able to make a full time living. It's much easier to make that full time living now in British wrestling, especially with the inclusion of NXT UK. Those guys are killing it. They're doing great. So yeah, the opportunities are there now. So if you was going to apply yourself to wrestling, now's the time, really.
Now's the time to do it. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you said there about, how old were you when you started then? You said like 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, so I'm 30 now. I've been doing it half my life, 15 years. It's one of the things. I don't consider myself like a 15-year veteran, because there was many years, especially in the beginning, where other than the summer holidays where it was busy, that was the only shows I was doing. There was nothing else for like almost the rest of the year. I remember going from like August to January 1st. I didn't have January 1st, like January 4th. Sorry, I didn't have any bookings, and how long was that? It was a long time, really. So it only really picked up for me and became a bit more regular 2-3 years in, and even then I wasn't very good. It wasn't until Ligero took me under his wing and started training me where I actually got half decent, semi decent. You know what I mean? Before then, it was just yeah. Even though I've been doing it 15 years, I'd say I only really kind of got the hang of it maybe about 10 years ago. I was about 20, 19, 20 when it started to click.
After sort of NGW sort of landed, then obviously when you started doing those shows regularly and stuff, that's when you would have started feeling comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because the shows that I used to do was ran by some like nobody essentially, and the people that he was bringing in was also nobodies, and you can't learn from those sort of people. Whereas we was British wrestling fans anyway. When I was 15, I was going to 1PW shows. I absolutely loved One Pro Wrestling back in the day. 1PW first anniversary show is one of the highlights of my life as a wrestling fan. It was amazing. The
Was
moment
that
where
the Carino Abyss barbed wire match?
yeah, Carino Abyss barbed wire match. But I remember I was a huge Christopher Daniels fan, and then they told us it was supposed to be Christopher Daniels versus
Curry man.
yeah. And
Yes.
he came out, and we got some guy. I think it was, I can't remember, Adam. Someone, he came up on the screen, and he was like, unfortunately, Christopher Daniels and Justin Rhodes have been rushed to hospital because of food poisoning. I was like, what the fuck is it? Everyone starts chanting bullshit because we all met him in the meet and greet earlier on, and then anyway, yeah, it's Curryman and Goldust, and I loved Christopher Daniels, but I loved Curryman even more. And that was I was only on about this today with a friend at work because he was at that show. But the genius of it, I paid to. So many people I paid to get my picture with Christopher Daniels earlier on in the night, and then I paid again to have it done later again with Curryman. So he was doing double bank that night. The amount of people that would have paid for 2 photos with him, he would have walked away, rubbing his hands together.
Because that was the show as well with Styles versus Pac, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember. I'll never forget because AJ Styles cut a promo at the end, and he said, like, I know it sounds funny, but if this was a video game, you just leveled up. And now to think what Pac's doing, Pac's out this world. His time in Japan, and it wasn't skinny as such. But at that point with AJ, when he had that match, he wasn't anything.
It was big. No.
He went to Japan and looked like he'd swallowed a tree. He just, his arms are like tree trunks. It's ridiculous. I did a show with Pac about a year or so ago, I think it was. Well, obviously not last year, probably 2 years ago. And that was the first time I'd seen him since before he went to WWE. And yeah, just got even. I thought he was big before he went to WWE, but he just got bigger and bigger as well. So
yeah. It's crazy because he put all this muscle mass on, but he didn't lose an edge when it came to like speed or he's still the man gravity forgot kind of thing.
Yeah, anybody else you'd think. I mean, I remember putting on like not so long ago. I got myself up to just shy of 14 stone. I felt really sluggish. So I'm normally about 13.5, so it was only half a stone that I put on, but I just felt like I was blowing a bit more. I just felt a little bit out of sorts. So God knows how he was able to do that with that much. But again, it comes back to Japan. Talking to Gabriel Kidd before, they were saying those guys are up like so early in the morning to start training. It's incredible, and it's just all day. And I imagine it's quite brutal as well. But obviously, enjoyable. It's still there now. So
yeah. Oh, definitely. I think it's rewarding. That's the thing. I think you put the hours in, but you see such a huge benefit from it. It makes it worthwhile.
That's the weird thing about being a wrestler as long as I have. I remember I met Gabriel Kidd when he was about 12. He was it was a Nottingham sort of training show, and I thought when I asked him what his name was, and he said Gabriel, I was like, no, what's your real name? Because I thought he was giving me his like, this is his gimmick name. He was like, no, it's Gabriel. I was like, all right, so But yeah, he was tiny, and then every time I saw, because I'd see him like every couple of years, and I remember saying to him before, like, next time I see you, mate, you're going to be as big as me. And sure enough, next time I saw him, he was as tall as me. He was real punchy as well. He got real punchy. He's ripped now. It's incredible. Yeah.
Well, the 1PW shows. I can remember seeing. I think as good as the anniversary show was, I think there was a couple of shows prior to that where they basically redid the Styles, Daniel, Joe triple threat match from 2005. I got to see that at like a 1PW show. I remember that being like one of the highlights.
I didn't get onto the 1PW bandwagon until they did a show in Hull called Devil's Due, and that was like my first introduction to 1PW, and I absolutely loved that then. And then after that, I was like, right, I became a fanatic. I was like, I've got to go to everything now. I remember when Stephen Gauntlet posted the thing about going into liquidation, the company. And obviously, I was only about 16, 17 at the time. I didn't really understand what liquidation meant or what was happening. But when I realised there's going to be no more 1PW, I cried. I remember sitting in front of my computer and crying because I was that big of a wrestling fan. 1PW meant that much to me as a wrestling fan. So yeah, it's interesting because Gauntlet's posted a few things recently where he posted the logo before and he said soon, and I was like, But even if 1PW did come back, Gauntlet's a different person now. You got to think he's changed a lot in the last 15 years. He's grown up, so I don't know what type of product it'd be. I don't think it'd be the one PW remember. I think it would be more of a British wrestling product and not a supercard imports type show.
Yeah.
And it'd be, I think everyone would still enjoy it from a British wrestling fan base, but for those people like myself and you, who was around 15 years ago when it was there, it might not be the same.
That's it. I mean, we saw so many. I mean, I saw Bryan Danielson versus, I'm sure it was Lance Storm or Nigel McGuinness. One of those two guys fight Bryan Danielson, at one PW show. And at the time, it was like, oh, this is freaking awesome. And it's only like 10 years later, you're like, oh shit, I saw those guys like 10 years ago, kind of thing.
How big it is, deal when it's happening. I think there's I think there's a lot of wrestlers that you've seen and spent time with that you had no idea there was. Pete Dunne's a perfect example. That first time I met Pete, I remember thinking, there's something about this guy. He was quite quiet, kept himself to himself, but we was wrestling together on that show as well, and we'd done a match. And then after that, we came back, and I felt like the walls had come down a little bit. He was a lot more talkative. And now every time I've seen Pete, we always sit down and have a good chat together and a catch up. I realised that was just Pete. He's just quite an introverted person. But yeah, at no point when I met Pete, years ago, did I think this is going to be the first WWE UK champion. And honestly, in my opinion, Pete is probably the biggest British wrestling star since British Bulldog. I think he's done so well. He's absolutely incredible. Do you know what he's doing over there?
Definitely.
Leaps and it was a shame when he left the NXT UK brand because he was the star power behind that brand. So when he moved over to NXT, it always felt like there was a hole there.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Walter
Dragunov
was sort of Dragunov as well. She Rampage is there now as well, so that's elevated again a little bit.
And Rampage won't mind saying it, but he doesn't like being on the microphone or anything like that, But then again, neither did Pete. I guess. I think it's just quite frustrating because Rampage is coming during the pandemic, and I think if he'd had a live audience to feed off, it might have made a bigger impact as well. It's just I found it hard to watch NXT UK with no audience. I found it hard to watch any wrestling over the past year when there was no audience. So the biggest part about it.
I was about to say Impact being the prime example. Impact's put some really good stuff on over this last 12 months. Just couldn't watch it. Because of no audience. No, even if no screens, there's just nothing.
Yeah, the Thunderdome was a step in the right direction, but I'll never forget tuning into WrestleMania when McIntyre won the WWE Championship, and I felt for Drew because he'd been through the mill. He was, party canvas. He was looking like it was going well for him. Intercontinental Champion, became a jobber with 3-man band, got let go, made a really good name for himself on the Indies, came back, took WWE by storm. About to win the championship, pandemic hits, and he has his WrestleMania moment in front of an empty arena, and I was like, that is brutal.
It's got to be harsh on it. I mean, hopefully, at some point they'll put the belt back on him. He'll be in front of a live audience. He'll get that moment.
But again, the second time round, it's never the same, is it? Never the same when and it won't. I doubt he'll be out of WrestleMania as well. I think you can only pull that trigger once, really, can't you? With some people, obviously, more than once. You look at your Rock and Austins and stuff like that from years ago. But,
the holy trilogy of WrestleManias. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, NGW then talking to guys like that. I mean, obviously, I mentioned, cage match going through, your CV of matches. Obviously, you've been in the ring with pretty much everyone and anyone within, the UK scene. Over the last 10 years, kind of thing.
Half my matches aren't even on there. Like, if I look at all the stuff that I've done at like Butlins and things like that, and all those matches, they never get recorded anywhere. So, the amount of any holiday resort shows you've done, they never get recorded. So, I remember I was looking at Cage Match a couple of years ago, and I'm thinking, I've had a lot more matches than this. It's weird, but then again, you can't record everything, can you? I didn't even know Cage Match existed until about 2 years ago. And then I was finding all these results from like 10 years ago. I was like, holy crap. Between around. This is insane.
Yeah, going back looking through all like the old matches kind of thing. But
I read them and I'm like, when did that match happen? I don't remember. I can't remember. I have no idea, no recollection of them at all.
Is that the match where I got a bang on the head? It might have been. Just totally forgot about that one.
That wasn't even me because I remember, I think it was Ace Matthews was on a Butlin show, but Nathan had said, "Oh, to Brian Dixon, the promoter, is it all right if I bring my mate Matt?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." Because Brian always loved me. Brian was quite hot on me, to be honest. When Nathan said, "Can I bring my mate Matt?" He was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So Ace Matthews turns up, and Brian Dixon, says to him, "Like, you've put on a bit of weight, sort of thing." And Matt was like, "I've never met you before." It's like, "Have you not?" And then penny dropped, and he went, "Oh, I thought you was bringing Myers along." And Nathan was like, "No, it's my trainee. This one's Matt Telf. He wrestles Ace Matthews." Well, Brian was like, "Oh, well, I've already written the cards now," and because he wrote down Matt Myers versus whoever, Ace Matthews was happening to come out and pretending to be me. So this gimmick or whatever it was. But that made me laugh, and I loved that because I was winding up. I was like, "Yeah, the only reason you got booked is because they thought it wasn't me." It's like, oh, so it hurts, but it's true.
Wow. All right. But yeah, I mean, obviously we mentioned Rampage. Obviously,
Yeah.
Nathan. You've been on the upward scale from day one with him, kind of thing. You got your Mark Haskins. So you mentioned Liggs. Just everyone. Joseph Connors, Dara Diablo. Guys like that who are just I count as like mainstays, of the UK scene.
Yeah.
Robbie X numerous times. I know you two have been you've been tag teamed as well.
Yeah. We won the tag team championships, and then about 4 months later, I think our first match actually we did this gimmick where we had to wrestle each other. But we've never actually defended the title since we won them. I don't even have them now. I think I took the belt back to Rich, the promoter, so I ain't even got that one anymore. That's a shame. I could have got a nice little wall hanger there, couldn't I? The last thing you do with the tag team champion.
Or the belt's behind you, or a lot. But obviously you're currently tag team champs with Nathan.
Yeah.
Well, that pop up a few weeks ago.
That was lovely. I mean, so it was supposed to be me and Lucas Steele, and Lucas had double booked himself, and he'd put himself at Grand Pro Wrestling at the same time. Well, obviously, as any wrestler should, except me, is you should honour your first booking, really. So Lucas had said to me, "Look, I can't do it," and it was supposed to be the ladder match where I won the tag team championships. And I messaged the promoter. I said, "Look," it's got to be Nathan. And I don't know why he had reservations about using Nathan. I have no idea because I don't know. Essentially, BWR had been running about 2 or 3 years, and Nathan hadn't done a single show with him, I think, at that point. So yeah, I think it was towards the third anniversary. So anyway, I said to the promoter, I said, "It's got to be Nathan." He went, "Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you." He said, "I'll give him a call now and we'll bring him in." And yeah, winning the tag team championship for Nathan, it's good for a number of reasons, but primarily because I think as kids, it was just like a nice little nod to our 8-year-old selves who wanted to be wrestlers, and now we're a tag team and we've got these tag belts. It was just nice for the photos, if anything, stuff to look back on in years to come. The time me and Nathan won tag team championships together, because we've never teamed, even though we've been friends all this time. Because I've always been the babyface, he's always been the villain. We'd never been a tag team before. So yeah, it was great to do, really.
Yeah, I remember seeing the pictures I think you put on social media, like of you two as kids, and then you two now with the belts, kind of thing, like a side by side comparison. And yeah, it was awesome. I love shit like that, when it's just mates growing up together and actually getting stuff done.
Well, to be honest, I don't know, I can't speak for Nathan, but if it wasn't for Nathan, I would have been in wrestling as long as I have. It's for me, I can honestly say I fell out of love with wrestling many, many years ago, but what I do still love about wrestling is getting to spend time with friends that I've made, and I've made the best friends through wrestling. The interesting thing about wrestling is you can meet someone once, have a match with them, see them 2 years later, and you've got this really cool bond because you had an awesome match 2 years ago. Joe Hendry's a bit like that. I think I always really enjoy seeing Joe Hendry, and we've had a few matches together. But before then, it was just, "All right, how you doing? Yeah, good. How are you?" Once we'd had a match together, that was it. Now we sit and have a chat with each other at shows and catch up, and it's nice, really. It's what happens after you've had a match with someone. I guess you create a bit of a bond.
Well, it's a shared moment, I presume. It's kind of like breaking the ice, and yeah, you've got that shared moment. So
that's it, really. Go on.
Go mentioned. You mentioned obviously being trained by Liggs. According to Wikipedia, you was also trained by Dave Rain.
Yeah, so I originally started in, it was quite a long story, but I talked to this guy into running a training school in Hull. He was from like Grimsby area, I think, or something. So he'd come down every Saturday and train me and my friends, and then it got to a point where we started to realise, hang on, this guy's a bit of a fraud. He doesn't know half as much as he thinks he knows. He's obviously not wrestling very often because every weekend when he should be wrestling, he's here training us. There was just some things that was a bit of a miss. He conned us out of money a couple of times. Me and Nathan used to go to these shows in Birmingham called Leicester, well, not in Birmingham, just outside, Leicester Pro Wrestling, I think it was called. So we used to do them. That's when I met Damien Dunn as well. Damien Dunn used to wrestle as a Mosher character called Omen. I didn't know that until a couple of years ago. He was mentioned it. He went, "Yeah, I used to do those shows." I went, "Did you?" He went, "Yeah, I used to wear this T-shirt. It was called Omen." I was like, "No way." Anyway, by the by. So we was getting paid for those shows, and we didn't know. Ron was just taking the money from us. Ron Wilkinson, who was used to wrestle at the Urban Warrior. So I trained with him for a bit, but then once we started to realise he was a bit of a dick, we thought we could. The arrogance of youth, we thought we could run our shows better, we could do it better, we could run our own training school, but we knew we couldn't train ourselves because we're not that deluded. So the idea was to pay somebody else to come in and train us, and who better than the man that was running probably one of the most successful wrestling schools in the country at the time in Future Shot Wrestling, and that was Dave Rain. So Dave Rain would drive up from Manchester every week to Hull to train us. And we did that for a while. Then Dave Rain left, and then I think we had Steve Sykes for a little bit from Grimsby. Again, he's all right, but a bit of a twat as well. I don't mind Steve, but yeah, also a bit of a twat. And then yeah, eventually after Steve, I think that was when Ligero came in. But after training with Urban Warrior, after training with Dave Rain, after training with Steve Sykes, I felt like Ligero was when I really started to develop an understanding of my strengths, my weaknesses, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and yeah, kind of going from there really. Yeah. That was kind of how that went.
So I mentioned obviously Dave Rain because I remember him from, I used to go to PCW back in the day. So I remember him, a big thing there. So always kind of struck me as like, he was quite solid in the ring, but it was always more of a comedy character. If they brought somebody like Goldust over or somebody like that, it was always paired up with Dave kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if that was more, if he helped with more of the character side of things.
To be honest, Dave's a weird one. Dave's, I think Dave will admit he was never the best wrestler, and that's why the comedy stuff works well for him because he wasn't the best wrestler. The comedy works well because you can hide all that stuff in comedy. That was always Madman Manson's theory. He said he knows he's not. He was like, I know I'm not the best whole wrestler, but I can do it because if you ever put me in the ring with Doug Williams, I want to be able to go toe to toe with Doug Williams. So he knew all this stuff. And Dave Rain was similar in that regard. I felt like Dave Rain had a really good mind for wrestling, but not necessarily execution. So when you train with Dave, you'd learn a lot. There was a lot that was coming in there, stuff that made sense. Psychologically, there was some good stuff up here that he passed on. But when you'd watch him back and you'd watch him wrestle, you just kind of go, it was almost like he didn't take his own advice. Like the advice he'd give you on what to do in training and what works well and what looked good, you'd watch him and you'd kind of go, Well, then sometimes it's down to his opponents as well. Like he was often, when I'd see him in Hull, he was often on with lads who kind of come up in the same proper talent as myself that had only been wrestling a couple of years and by all means weren't very good. So maybe it wasn't necessarily so much a reflection on Dave, but more his opponent. But at the same time, from my point of view, I've done them shows in Lincoln with trainees, and I know how to cover up their weaknesses to still make me look good as a babyface or a villain. It's about adapting to that. Don't try and put on the same sort of I don't try and put on the same sort of match that I'd put on with Robbie X or Nathan Cruz that I'm going to with a guy that's been training for a year and has had 2 matches. That's the stuff you've got to consider when you're putting it together.
You emphasize the strengths, hide the weaknesses, kind of thing. You work away around it in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just as you mentioned, we was talking about Nathan before. I just wanted to do a massive shout out to him as well. Obviously, with his podcast and his massive man cave of awesomeness. He literally seems to have an endless amount of merchandise of cool shit.
Oh yeah. I was really proud of him in the lockdown because I felt like, well, even just before, to be honest, but take a bad situation and run with it. He's not the type of person to just mope about and say, "Woe is me, I can't do this." He took us the time to be creative. Now Nathan's got a huge toy collection. I mean, I still love Christmas primarily for Nathan's presents because me and him always get each other really cool toys at Christmas. It was my birthday in June, and he got me it's a WCW NWO figure of Hulk Hogan, like Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I've wanted it because I've got a few WCW Toy Biz figures, and I was really wanting this one, so he managed to get me that. But that's what I love about birthdays and Christmases with Nathan. We always get each other, because my wife will never buy me like toys or anything. It's always going to be something practical that I'll use, and nobody wants practical stuff. Nah. Stuff that's just fun to look at. I'm probably going to collect dust somewhere in the loft, but yeah, that's what we do. We buy each other cool presents, and yeah, there's a lot. I was watching a lot of the Inside the Toy Room when it was going on, and pretty much every episode he'd show something. It's like, this is what my mate Matty got me. This is what my mate Matty got me, because I just get him cool stuff. And that's been happening. That's been happening for over 10 years now on Christmas and birthdays. I always make sure we get something. I've just ordered his Christmas present. Actually, obviously can't say what it is, but he's gonna love it. That's how prepared I am.
Nice.
The first Christmas present I bought for someone is him. So yeah, it's cool. He's gonna enjoy it. He's still got a birthday in September, but he's already ordered breakfast himself. By the by.
What if the new arrival starts nicking all your birthday and Christmas presents?
Well, to be honest, I've started. I mean, I've got like a toy collection myself, and recently I've just been looking at things in the boxes and going, you know what? I've just been pulling things out of boxes, putting them on display. But some of them, if it's old stuff, if it's old 90s stuff from my childhood, and it's a bit more sentimental, like I'm not opening any of my WCW figures. I'd just rather buy them again loose if I wanted them out of the box. But I've got a lot of Power Rangers stuff, and it's not Power Rangers from the 90s. It's some of the Legacy stuff and the Bandai stuff. And I'm like, balls to it. They only came out last year. You know, am I really buying these things just so I can wait 10 years to sell them on? Like, no, I want them on display. So yeah, I've started taking things out of the boxes, much to the dismay of Nathan Cruz, who thinks it's sacrilegious.
I think some things, obviously, like you say, you save, and there's other things that I think you're smart enough to know that it's kind of tainted. Like you said, it's not the original Power Rangers. It's it's not even the next gen. It's like the 5th generation kind of thing, where you're like, you know what, I can crack this open.
Yeah. It's like I'm into my Pokemon cards. I've still got like my massive Pokemon card collection. Every now and then they released can you remember the old Charizard card? I think that everybody wanted back in the day. They've reprinted that a couple of times, and now there's a version of it, and people get really excited when they find it. I'm like, who cares? It was printed in like 2016. How is it worth anything? It's not.
Yeah.
Legacy collection. It just didn't make sense to me.
But it's like getting excited over, finding Amazing Fantasy, is it 15 or 16 or something? The first appearance of Spider-Man, but it's like the 100th reprint of it or something.
Yeah,
it's not going to be worth what. It's nice to have. It'd be nice. It's a nice book to read.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not going to frame it. You're not going to sell it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly it, really.
So, well, that kind of it's a nice little segue into my obviously next conversational point. Spider-Man. Anybody who knows you knows you've got the Spider-Man tat.
I do, yeah.
Where did that stem from? Was it from a young age? Is it sort of like, obviously, you're a massive Spider-Man fan?
So Spider-Man's always been probably like my superhero hero, because I think Spider-Man always had that do what's necessary to protect the ones that you love. Whereas I never liked sort of Batman's code of don't kill anybody. Well, do you know what I mean? Like, why? If someone's threatening your family or something, then surely. I think what made Spider-Man so important to me was how real he was. He was this kid who'd been given this responsibility, and it was too much to handle, and he was worried about the safety of his family. And there were so many real elements to that character that I could resonate with. I can't resonate with Batman. I don't know what it's like to be a billionaire that can just go out and spend all this money and dress in a bat suit and fuck about. I can't resonate with that. What I can resonate with as a kid was a teenage guy being bitten by a spider, didn't ask for it, was given these powers, and now he wants to help people with them.
After paying the ultimate price. of obviously his uncle dying because he shirked the responsibility originally.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've always been a Spider-Man fan. The colouring, I know that sounds stupid, but as a kid growing up, red was always my favourite colour. So red and blue. So I was always like attracted to his sort of his costume. Playing the Spider-Man games as a kid on the PlayStation 1, Spider-Man, and then the Enter, I think it was Enter Electra or something like that, the second one. So yeah, absolutely loved the games. There was just a lot about the character that I really, really liked, and I think for me, when it came back to wrestling, I remember introducing that into my wrestling style because it was just natural. But the way I'd perch myself up on the top rope, when I'd evade a move, I'd have this pose, and one of the trainers at the time was said, "You're like Spider-Man in there." And I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like every time you do something, you're like there, and I was like, "All right." So that inspired one of my very first sets of custom gear was to get like the red and blue print of the Spider-Man logo and the font that was used for like the original PlayStation 3 and like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films as well. It's the same font. So I had Myers down the side of my pants in there. And yeah, I think the tattoo in itself was one of them things where I'd created this list at school when I was about 13, 14 of things to do by the time I was 18. We did it as part of a project thing. And I'm a bit of a hoarder as well. I like to keep things that are quite sentimental to me. And I think I was 17 going on 18, and I found this letter that I'd written 3 years ago. And there was things on there that I hadn't done, like skydiving I still haven't been skydiving, but skydiving was on there. You know, there was a few things that I'd learned to drive, and I hadn't done these things. But the one thing that I saw on the list was get a tattoo. And I thought, right, that's one thing that I can actually do on that list before I turn 18. So I don't feel like I have failed in this little target goal setting thing. So I rang the tattoo studio that was on, not too far, not knowing too much about who to go to for tattoos. And they booked me on my 18th birthday. So I was able to get a tattoo on my 18th birthday. And because, again, being just a huge Spider-Man fan at the time, I got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man logo on my chest. And then it was after a couple of years where I wanted to extend it a little bit. Because to be honest, I don't regret my tattoo as such. But if I was to get a tattoo now, I probably wouldn't get that. But I've kind of extended it in a way where it's a little bit more likable, rather than just having the logo, getting all the webbing and that behind it. I'm a bit more of a fan of it now than I used to be. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
So the webbing looks awesome, by the way. I've only ever seen it with the webbing behind it, kind of thing. So I was always kind of like, yeah, I like that. I've got Spider-Man tattoo on my leg. I might stand up and show you, but actually, yeah, no, I'll chance to show off. Let's see if I can get it on camera.
Oh, see, that's nice. That's what I mean, and it's in a decent place as well. It's on your leg. Have you got any tattoos on like your chest or anything?
Not on my chest. It's the one place I haven't gone yet. I've pretty much gone over shoulders, down arms. Got the Joker one.
Oh, nice. I think that's part of the issue with that is it's just now every time it's just that on my promo pictures. It's like the first thing that you see, and I feel like it used to be a big part of my character as well as like as a baby face, I guess. I was always doing superhero themed costumes. I remember doing, because I was like the superhero in NGW, I did the Captain America look, and I was like NGW's first Avenger. Do you know?
Yes.
Bringing
jacket.
That really cool jacket, bringing justice to the bad guys, and that was the thing with NGW. Was very much aimed at. It was aimed at families. It wasn't for the wrestling fan. And Rich had really smart logic. To be fair, I've learned a lot from Rich in terms of wrestling and how promoters done. And a lot of people could take a leaf out of his book. But wrestling fans are going to come to a wrestling show regardless. You put on wrestling. You put on a couple of guys that they know, bring a couple of names. They're going to come. What you've got to try and do is make the kids have a good time and make the parents enjoy it. Because if the kids are, to be fair, the kids are often always going to enjoy it anyway. But if you can make the parents enjoy it, they're more likely to come back. Too many wrestling promotions cater to wrestling fans, and then they wonder why there's only 50 to 100 people in their audience rather than 300 people. It's because your families make up the bulk of your audience. The wrestling fans, if I think of Hull City Hall, when I'm at Hull City Hall holds about 2,000 people. And when I look out there, I look around, and you see a couple of like black t-shirt wrestling fans, but they probably make up maybe 10% of that audience. Now imagine if we only catered to them. We'd have 100 people in the audience, maybe less. That's part of the issue. It's the families that you've got to bring in. So the superhero stuff really, really did that. I remember doing one of my first NGW shows. I had some Spider-Man gear, and the next NGW show I came to, the amount of kids that came dressed up as Spider-Man, they weren't bothered about Myers. They were just bothered about Spider-Man. They were seeing Spider-Man as a wrestler. That's what they loved about it the most. And yeah, that's what brought them in. Families see the kids enjoying it. Oh, we'll bring them back. They really enjoyed it last time. It's cheap enough. We'll bring them back. You have guys like Rampage Brown who can convince a dad in the audience. Oh, I thought this was fake. This is looking real. That guy's Rampage Brown. Honestly, I've been in the ring with Rampage Brown. First time I was in the ring with him, I was terrified. I was like, this guy's going to absolutely destroy me. His pile driver looks like the most devastating thing in the world.
Yep.
But it's the safest thing in the world as well. It's one of the safest moves I've ever taken in wrestling. I'd 100% trust Rampage Brown to drop me on my head 10 times in a row. I'd have no worries about that. But there's essentially what I'm getting at is wrestling's a variety show. So have like your superhero character in there, like someone like, again, El Ligero back in the day. He was always kind of like that beacon of superhero. He had the cape, the mask on, and everybody sort of enjoyed that. You have your characters like Rampage Brown and you know, Dave Mastiff, your big men that make the audience think, oh wow, these are the heavyweights. This is what we've come to see. I think there's a recent report in WWE now where they're saying, oh, just focus on the big guys. No more midgets. No more guys in the 30s. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, for me, it's make wrestling a variety show. Have you cruiserweights, have your high flyers, have your big men who maybe don't move around as much but still put on a bit of a scrap and a bit of a fight. And that's what it needs. Have a comedy match. That's why, again, Dave Brown was a great addition to the PCW shows because there was so much happening on there in terms of US talent as like the super shows, bringing all these. Well, I think God knows how many XWE talent's been over at PCW, but getting those guys in there. Having your high flyers, having your cruiserweights, having you guys like, you know, Chris Travis and Finn Balor and Joey Ayers, and then having some comedy in there as well. You know, Dave Brown that's how it should be. Dave Brown broke up that show a bit with the whole "Hello, I'm Dave Brown" stuff, and his belt, what was like was like Boom or something, the Boom Champ.
Yeah, Boom Champ. That's it.
That's what wrestling is. Wrestling needs to be more of a variety show. If you just start having everyone looking the same. And that's part of the problem with identity. So many wrestlers are doing the same stick at the moment. So many people want to be the plain trunks, come out, wrestle, puts his hand up and does a few hold for holds. You don't need it. Chris Ridgway's got that market down. Why is anybody going to try and impersonate Chris Ridgway when he's one of the better people that's doing it on the scene at the moment? If anything, you're just making yourself look second rate to somebody else. Do something different. That's my philosophy. When I'm on a show, I literally look around at the card and think, right, Joe Nelson, Kid Like Us 2, he's here. Robbie X is on. Them two are really good high flyers. There's no point in me popping out any of my high flying stuff because they're going to make mine look like, you know, a Charles Tea Party or something like that. Then you look at they've got the comedy wrestler there. So I'll tell you what, I won't do as much comedy because he's funnier than me. I can't do that as good as him. So that's kind of how I work a show out. I look at the rest of the card and I think, what are these guys doing? What are these guys doing? And like doing the tag team stuff with Nathan is great because me and Nathan have both got a really good man for tag team wrestling. Constantly relying upon each other to get the upper hand as the villains, how we structure that. Him more so than me, absolutely, but we've both got a good mind and we bounce off each other quite well when we're planning about, you know, what we're going to do and where. So yeah, I mean, I can go on a tag match. I can go on a show now where there could be another tag match on there, and I don't worry because I don't think they're going to do it better than me because I don't think they will. And that's not arrogance; it's just a confidence in my abilities of storytelling, I guess, from that perspective.
Oh, that's it. That's a really good way of actually looking at it. I don't think anybody's ever actually broken it down in that manner before, but it makes perfect sense. It's like you sort of say, why would you go out and try and do something that somebody else is going to do? And if you know they do it better than you, it's like, right, okay, well, that's off the table. We'll try and structure the match in this way then, so we can focus on something else.
That's why I hate being on a show with Dean Allmark, because the guy can do it. He's a wizard. Honestly, he's the unsung hero of British wrestling. I honestly think he is. I honestly think he's one of the best things ever. I love him. He's such a nice man. He's been a good friend to me over the years as well. When I've seen him, he's one of the people that I don't talk to. I don't text. I don't talk to very often. comment on a few of his things. He comments on a few of mine, but when I see him, I love to talk to him. He's just got a really good man for wrestling, and yeah, he's so good at hold for hold wrestling. He can out wrestle most people, but he's also a really good high flyer, and he's very innovative as well. And he's a good babyface. So you can't go on a show and hate Dean Allmark. And I think he's really found himself in recent years, because part of Dean's problem was Dean's bread and butter was holiday camps and Butlins and Haven. So Dean was always working really to the bulk of these family crowds. And then when you put him in an environment where it was mainly smart marks sitting there going and entertain me, and Dean's there going, he's giving it the big sort of come on and like no. Yeah. But he's found himself recently, and you can tell that. You watch some of his more recent stuff back, and he just looks like a competitive badass as well. Yeah, I can talk about Dean for forever and a day. I absolutely love the guy. I think he's wonderful.
He's definitely he's one of those. Because I think when I talk to people, I generally sort of try and aim for, like, British wrestlers. I want to try and get British wrestling out. I want to sort of talk to you guys and girls just about the awesomeness that is British wrestling. And yeah, Dean's come up a few times. There's been a few people that have sort of said, he's like the unsung hero of British wrestling, and Rampage is the other name. Those two guys are generally the two.
Yeah, here's the frustrating part. So Dean Allmark and Rampage Brown are two people that have come out of the All-Star team and have gone on to make something of themselves on the independents. I know All-Star's an independent as well, but for some reason, maybe it's them as well. I think they almost I got in trouble once in the backstage of an All-Star show, because I was talking about some shows, and this guy was there, and he's from America, and he was complaining that we was talking about the indies and said, don't talk about them piss pots here and stuff like that. And I was like, man, they think All-Star is probably above what it was. Do you know what I mean? In that sense. But yeah, it really wasn't, to be fair. It's great, but it's still, you can't deny it's still an independent show. It's not the WWE, it's not New Japan. Yeah, you're working a lot more. But yeah, to be fair, what I was going to say, because I've gone off track here, but with Rampage Brown and Dean Allmark are two people that have kind of got rid of them shackles of the All-Star wrestling background, and now there's so many people that didn't get the opportunity, because James Mason, in my opinion, is one of the best wrestlers you'll ever see. Ringo Ralph, again, the first time I'd ever completely winged a match was with Ringo Ryan, and again, fantastic talent. Robbie Dynamite is one of the best wrestlers you'll ever see. Pound for pound, the best wrestlers you'll ever see. Imagine like CJ Banks times 1,000, and that's no disrespect to CJ Banks. It's just to say how good Robbie Dynamite is. They're very similar in that way as well, in terms of the style. But these are people that are absolutely fantastic and have never. I don't know if is there an element of arrogance? Maybe they thought All-Star Wrestling was above these shows as well. I don't know.
Yeah, if you get stuck in that mindset, it can do you over, kind of thing. You don't sort of. Obviously, yeah, Dean and Rampage gone on, just been awesome. Got to be sort of on the Mount Rushmore of British wrestlers, kind of thing. Of the current day. You mentioned Travis previously. That's one thing I did sort of, I was surprised at, was when I was looking through Cage Match. Obviously, if there's some matches missing, but I only saw Trav's name sort of on your CV twice. Once was in like a 30-man rumble, and I think you was in like a triple threat sort of with him. Obviously, I try and sort of coax memories out of people if they ever worked with Trav or knew him of the experiences. I mean, what was you've got any lasting memories?
I've done a few more shows with Trav. There was one we did as a family fun day, and it was like we ended up being like a 6-man tag, and I love this story. So there's me, Ligero, Chris Travis, and I can't remember. I think Dara Diablo might have been there as well. Okay, we're in this tag anyway. But the moment that I loved was Ligero gets the hot tag, and he comes in and he goes to throw his big clothesline on to Chris Travis. Well, Trav just ducks it and Ligero ain't expecting it, so Ligero just falls flat on his face. And this is the part of the match where he's supposed to be on fire. Well, that's it. We're on the outside of the ring, and we just see Ligs go fly, because we just pretty much winged this match in there. It was a case of just jumping there and let's see what happens. And Ligs had called for the fire, and Trav just went, nope. And Ligs just went flying. But it's stuff like that. There's a lot of little memories with Trav where you do just think about it and you start laughing. That triple threat match he was on about was on with a lad called Sam Wilder.
Yes.
And Sam had got a concussion earlier on during the match. I think it was me. I used to do a Shining Wizard. It was my heat because I stopped wearing kick pads, but I was still doing a Shining Wizard. And I think I sort of hit him with the same force that I would have with kick pads on a little bit earlier on in the match. Well, I didn't realise he was knocked out. I thought he got his arm up for it. We're carrying on as we're doing. Well, Sam just starts forgetting everything, or at least that's what we thought. We thought, why is he not doing this? And the problem with triple threat matches, it's hard to ad lib because when there's just two of you in there, it's easy to work off each other. It's hard to just wing a triple threat match because there's three of you in the ring at all times. Anyway, Sam Wilder had forgot a couple of his spots. Trav's livid. Trav's absolutely furious. And in the end, I think we both just sort of just hit a couple of finishes on Sam, and we just said, oh, fuck it. We just ended up leaving it and going back. Well, me and Trav come back for the curtain and we're huffing and puffing. We go upstairs, we're in the locker room, and we're saying, oh, that guy's fucking shit. He's fucked this up. He fucked this up. Why the fuck he forgot this? And we're real annoyed about it, as you can imagine, because everything in the match just went wrong towards the end of the stretch. Well, Sam walks in, and we both look at him, and he's looking so dazed. And me and Trav just looked at each and went, oh shit. We realised what had happened. And obviously we're sympathetic. It was like, are you all right? Everything okay? But then when we left the room and there was me and him, we was both in tears because we thought, what dickheads. There we are, cussing him out and everything. Not thinking he's forgot loads of shit. Turns out we knocked him half unconscious.
Well, Sam, obviously, yeah, he was another one that I was going to kind of bring up, but I didn't know how to, because I was a big, obviously, title wrestling. Like I said, I've been to NGW shows before. I remember seeing The Proven. I remember being a fan of, Sam and Kaz.
Yeah.
But I always had Sam down as being someone to keep an eye out for. He was tall, he had a good look, he was quite built. But I seem to drop off the radar. I don't know if I'm just not looking in the right places.
Essentially, it's a little bit about his story. He was working on, I think he was like some sort of engineer, but it was quite brutal, the shifts he was doing. It was like 12 hours at a time, and he was doing maybe 60 hours a week or something, maybe more. And yeah, to be honest, it just got to a point where he only ended up doing a couple of NGW shows. He was NGW Tag Team Champion, but he looked great. And I remember him turning up to an NGW show, and oh man, he looked like a skeleton. He'd lost loads of weight. Now, we were just like taking the piss a little bit and winding him up, going, oh, fucking hell, Sam, didn't see you there, sort of thing, because he'd lost all this weight. And then he took it a bit personal, and we apologised. We didn't realise it was quite a sensitive subject. But essentially, the bottom and short of it was he was working a lot. He wasn't having time to go to the gym. He wasn't getting a chance to train in wrestling. He'd got himself a cat, and he'd started saved up for his mortgage. And he said, honestly, he gets to the weekend now. He said, I don't want to wrestle. He's past it. And it's a shame because going back to wrestling and friendships, he was one of the better friends I've had in wrestling. Again, along with Travis used to stay over at my house when there was in Hull. Sam used to stay over at my house. Just good friends, really. And like I said, obviously, God rest Trav. But yeah, I think Sam just disappeared off the radar a little.
Yeah, because I did years ago. I did a piece of artwork. It was like it was a Generation Next comic book cover, but I put Ridgeway and Sam on the cover. I'd done some artwork of them both and put them both on the cover, and basically shouted out, these are the two guys, to watch out for. I think it was about 8 years ago I did it. Yeah. Obviously, Chris was, gone on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how highly I thought of Sam at that point.
Yeah, Sam could have been the next Chris Travis, without a doubt, because Chris was one of his mentors as well. Like him and Chris was pretty close. So Sam was training with us at NGW, so he trained with myself, he trained with Nathan, he trained with Ligera, and then he was pretty much being mentored by Chris Travis as well, quite a lot. So yeah, he had all the tools. I think that's one of the worst parts sometimes. There's people that have got all the tools and then don't do anything with it. But like I said, I've been around too long. I've seen people come and go as well. Like Liam Slater, I remember when he first started training, he used to attend some of my training sessions with NGW years ago. And now, he's got his own training school. In fact, I was training with him a few months ago after the pandemic because I wanted to get the ring rust off. And I remember he pulled me aside because my confidence was really low. And he just pulled me aside and said to me, he said, just remember how good at this you are. He said, don't worry, because I'm like, I feel like I'm doing this wrong. I feel like I'm doing this wrong. He said, you're not. He said, you're a natural. Everything's coming. He said, it's coming back. He said, just don't worry. And it's weird to think that someone that I was training, like, on and off a few years ago, is now training me and giving me a little bit of encouragement. That's how far he's come. But it's in that same respect, that's how long I've been around. People have come and gone, and the people in my head, Liam's still quite a new guy. He's still quite new to the scene, but he's been around years.
Yeah, obviously I'm a Leeds guy, so yeah, I've seen Liam. I saw Liam when he started off in Bradford. When he was blooming.
Amir Jordan's an example of this. I remember Liam brought Amir Jordan to a show in Bradford that I was on, and do you know what I mean? We've talked about this, but in wrestling, it's quite traditional. You shake hands and stuff like that, and sort of introduce yourself. Well, Amir never came over and shook anybody's hand. And I was like, oh, who's that guy? Sort of thing. He's just sort of helping out and stuff. And now he's one of my better friends in wrestling, NXT UK talent. And in my head, again, he's still a new guy, but he's not. He's been around a good few years now.
Yeah.
Just a sign that I've been around too long sometimes when I think that way. Time to give it up.
You still got, well, obviously you'll see what happens, when priorities change and whatnot. But I say 30 is nothing, man. Jeez, you still got 10 years in you if you wanted to. But
yeah, that's it, yeah.
Right.
Just gonna keep going. I think sometimes that's what I say.
At the end of the day, man, if your body can take it, if you're happy doing it, you go for as long as you want to go. It's
honestly 15 years and I've had no real injuries to touch wood. The one time I've been injured in wrestling was in training, and that was in 2011. I went to do an arm drag on Dario Diablo. He went to shoulder tackle me, so I broke my hand as I brought it into his shoulder. That's the only real injury I've had. I don't have any long-term injuries. Like my wrist hurts a bit now and again, and sometimes I get a bit of shoulder pain. But yeah, for someone who's been doing it as long as I have, I don't feel like it. And I've often, there's some of my friends have had to have surgery. So Dave Graves, he had to have surgery. He came off the second rope with an axe handle, or his ACL or something. He had to get surgery on it. This was a few years back. But I've always said, I think now if I ever had one big injury that required surgery or something like that, that'd be me done. Amir Jordan's just had to have surgery on his shoulder. Again, he's only been around for a cup of coffee, hasn't he, as well? Kip Sabian's had to have surgery recently on his shoulder, which is funny because Kip and Amir are really good friends. They're that much in tandem that they're both getting the same sort of surgeries. So, but yeah, I think if I have that happen to me, that'll be when I say, right, that's when I'm giving it up now. I've had to have a major surgery on a body part or something. But until those days come, just one of the things, I think I'm more cautious now. I'm more conscientious of my mortality. Before I used to do backflips off the corner to the outside, do dives. I did a dive not so long ago in a tag match. It was me and Joe Nelson, and he convinced me to do a dive, and we're just about to set off, and he's still laughing. He's still laughing about it before we talked about it because he went, I'm in the ring. I went, oh, for fuck's sake, Joe! Just as we're hitting the ropes and I'm running off. But he said the fear that was in your face as you were doing it. It was lovely. It was sound. It was easy. Jumps are good.
Dude, it's been a pleasure. I've just clocked the time. That's absolutely flown by, dude. I won't keep you much. I obviously won't keep you much longer. Dude, yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I didn't even really get to talk to you about Spider-Man. We only just touched upon it. I thought that was going to be a massive part of it all. But before you go, though, just check your excitement levels for No Way Home as of whenever the trailer drops.
Very high. Happy that there's a lot of, I think sometimes with movies these days, they ruin it by putting too much in trailers. They give too much of the story away. I think we all know what's going to happen, don't we? We've spoken about Andrew Garfield being in there. We've spoken about Tobey Maguire. The multiverse theory is now wide open after the Loki TV show. So there's a lot there that can happen, but it's going to be one of them ones where I'm going to have to go see it day one, because it was the same with Star Wars when Force Awakens came out. I didn't want to risk any spoilers, and obviously the Han Solo moment could have been spoiled for me pretty quickly. So yeah, that
was spoiled for me. So yeah, you made the right choice. I went
to the midnight show of the Force Awakens. No regrets. I really enjoyed Force Awakens. Less so the following two films, but Force Awakens I really enjoyed. So yeah, but that's what I'm going to be. It's probably going to be either midnight showing or first thing in the morning. I'll take a day off work That's excitement levels. No spoilers. That's what I want to do.
That's it, man. Yeah, because obviously Jamie Foxx as well, William
Oh, yeah.
Dafoe, Alberto Molina, or I butchered his name, but Doc Ock.
I know.
So yeah, it's going to be awesome. So it's going to be one of those ones. I'm waiting for the trailer to drop, but I'm like, do I watch the trailer when it drops, or do I just try to avoid it? Because it's just
To be honest, I think we've all been waiting on the trailer for a while now, haven't we? It's kind of be thinking, it's got to be any day now, and but in a way, I saw like there was a false. It was always like a gimmick, a bit of a meme, and they were saying that we're actually taking a risk here. We're not going to release a trailer for the movie, and I was like, and then it turned out it was a gimmick. It was bollocks. So I thought, well, that's interesting. But in a way, I'm thinking I'd kind of like that because trailers do give too much away these days.
Yeah, and people are going to go see it anyway. I mean, the point of a trailer is to get somebody excited for a film, is to make you want to go watch a film.
And everyone wants to go. Everyone's going to go. Literally, the second they say it's at theaters, everyone's going regardless, aren't they? So, yeah, it's one of them ones.
So that was it. That was my final question. I had to gauge the excitement level. So, dude, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Anything? I know you said you're not big on the socials, but do you want to plug the Matt Myers Facebook page or Instagram or anything like that?
Twitter, Instagram @Matt_Myers91. I'm not on there, but I pop on now and again, and if I've been tagged in some things, I'll retweet them. That's about it, really. But yeah, it's a toxic place, and I hate it. It's a necessity for wrestling, but that's the one thing I've said. Once I'm done with wrestling, that'll be so nice because then I can just be like, gone with social media. No longer give it to it.
I literally go on, post my stuff, get off again. I'm one of those really bad guys. I don't interact with anyone unless they interact with my stuff because I don't look through their stuff.
I went through my following list before, and I thought, right, I'm just unfollowing anyone that isn't following me. And it's not an arrogance thing, but it's more like, again, I'm not interested in your life if you're not interested in mine. So I just unfollowed loads of people. Pretty much that was where I was at. But then, I've seen loads of people. Honestly, my Facebook's mental at the moment. I've got about 300 friend requests that I haven't even looked through, and they've been piling up over the past couple of years. So I get people following me. I said Clint Margera follow. Is that what you say his name? Clint Margera?
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking Bam Margera, so I can't pronounce the same word.
Deathmatch wrestler. I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. I think it's Margera. But yeah, I've met him a couple of times. He's sound. I saw that he followed me the other day, so I followed him back. But yeah, I've seen a few people. I think I've had about 40 new followers over the past sort of couple of weeks, and I haven't looked at who they are or anything like that. It's not arrogance when I don't follow people back. It's just
you've got life. At the end of the day, that's it. Everybody's got a life. Shit happens. So, dude,
I don't think anyone should ever get caught up on who's following and who isn't anyway. But I wanted to what I have just said about getting rid of everyone that wasn't following me. But when people obsess over it, I think it's mental.
Yeah, that's definitely agree with that. So I will let you go anyway. I'm gonna go chill and see if the Spider-Man trailer's dropped.